Hello, I'm Stuart Smith, a church member since 2015, and I'm here to interview Jacques Angelini, a church member since 2002, about his Feed and Read project here in Franklin County and the Feed My Sheep project he supports in Mineral Athens County in Ohio here. Both are part of our Justice Action Ministry, or the JAMS Food Insecurity Focus. JAMS Food Insecurity Focus also supports monthly dinners served by the YMCA and the Faith Mission, which will be highlighted in a later Justice Update video. JAM receives about 2% of the church's annual budget to fund projects that further our UU values in the community. So Jacques, wake up. Thank you for your time here, and thank you for your ministry doing Feed and Read and Feed My Sheep. Could you please tell us how your two projects got started?
Yes, the Feed My Sheep project got started by an article in the Columbus Dispatch on poverty in Ohio. And I had a connection to a food pantry that was in Ohio, in Columbus, that was throwing away every time the season would change perfectly good clothes. So I went to the article and got a phone number and got in touch with a person down there. And after a couple of trips, the phone number led me to a person at the food bank in Logan for Southeast Ohio. And the minister in Mineral, Ohio was just starting a food pantry. So I knew I could take clothing to him because he didn't have any. And so once that started, then I knew it just kind of morphed, because then school supplies, because that was August of 2004, the first Wednesday in August. And then school supplies came on, and then Thanksgiving and Christmas presents, and then Easter and Easter hams, and then it just morphed from there. Now, the Feed and Read Ohio, a friend of mine's wife called me one time, and she knew I was the food person. So she said, "I've got an SUV full of produce. Would you like it?" And I said, yes. And then I thought, now what am I going to do with it? So anyway, then I started finding people that needed produce. And then another friend of mine called me, and there was a place in Delaware that had 40,000 pounds of potatoes. So I picked up 3,200 pounds of potatoes in 1 week, and found that it was very easy to find people that needed it. You just went to where the poor people lived and hung out. So that's kind of how that got started. And that also morphed, because if you don't have money for food, you don't really have it for anything else. Feminine hygiene products, toiletries, and then the Feed and Read, since I'm a retired school teacher, that I knew that the children that lived in poor conditions and food insecure families didn't have children's books in the home, and they couldn't practice reading at home so they could get a good education and get out of poverty. So that's why I hooked up the food and the read, and the food is like my entree. And then once I get in the door, then I can find out what their other needs are.
Okay. Now, for Feed and Read, how do you find the people to distribute the food, and how do you distribute to the Franklin County people?
Well, I knew some people through some friends of mine that were food insecure, and one lived in Linden, right where Mifflin and North Linden and South Linden come together, and I knew that was a very poor area. And then one lived in a trailer park in Whitehall. So when I started taking food to the trailer park in Whitehall to that one friend of mine, then they said, well, my daughter and her family needs food. And then I started finding other people outside their trailers and asking them if they needed food. And then, you know, the people down there, everybody living in the trailer park needs help. You don't live in a trailer park if you've got ample money to sustain yourself. So I just started finding people in the trailer park, and then I would speak Spanish to them and say, you know, I'd give them more food than they could use. And then I say, you know, para su amigo or para su vino Vecino or something like that. And then the woman that lived in Linden, she knew a lot of people that were food insecure. And then she went on the Linden Facebook page and found some others. And I kept giving her more food than she needed because that's my modus operandi. I give them more food than they can use, and then they start finding other people that need it once they're food secure. That's the whole trick. You got to make them food secure so they're willing to go out and reach out to help other people.
So how often do you go out for deliveries?
Every single day, sometimes 2 and 3 times a day. And I pick up food every day, and I go out and deliver food every day. And sometimes I deliver the food and then pick more up and deliver it, and pick more up and deliver it, and then start again the next day. And then every Monday for 17 years, I've been going down to Athens County.
And how do you find these places to get the food from?
Well, I've been involved in a lot of groups that I've volunteered with in Franklin County that have to do with food. And then I tell people what I'm doing, and then they tell me about other resources. And some of the places I volunteered give me the food, and some places that I volunteered tell me about other places for food. But it's a matter of networking is how I've done a lot of that. I have 2 Lutheran churches, 2 Baptist churches, 3 Methodist churches, 2 food pantries, Food Rescue US / Columbus, Ohio. And then I have another group called Sedona Grace that I get about 200 to 300 pounds of pet food from them every month. So I have a lot of groups that, you know, I hook into by talking to people about other aspects. Feddersen Rec Center, there's a few rec centers, and there's also Clinton Township Fire Department gives out food. So there's a lot of places, but I've made those connections over the years and talking to people. And when people find out what I do, they tell me other places to get food.
And you often use the phrase rescuing food. How does that differ? What's different about rescuing food?
Well, I don't buy it. You know, the food I buy is usually, you know, at a lower price at Aldi's when I have to fill in around some of the food that I rescue, because the fresh produce is seasonal. So sometimes, and you very rarely get protein, hardly ever get beans and rice, and you hardly ever get meat. So that's those are some of the items I have to go to the grocery store for. And then feminine hygiene products and toiletries. And, you know, the food that I get, some of it's shelf stable and a lot of it's perishable. So I have to get rid of it the same day I get it. Especially in the warmer time of the year, you know, it's really harsh on fresh produce. So, and things like milk, if I can get milk. So a lot of times it's just on what they have, you know, it's not a grocery store. You can't select what you want. You take what they get, and sometimes everybody's got apples, and, you know, you can only use so many apples, but that's why you have to have a lot of different sources so you can get different items.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes the local food bank suppliers have the same thing, and so everybody has kind of the same thing that you pick up.
Yeah, the food bank, the Mid-Ohio Food Bank, gives out food to all these different places. When they get a semi of potatoes in, that's what everybody gets. When they get a semi of sweet potatoes, that's what everybody gets. But a lot of my clients like sweet potatoes, but a lot of them don't. But almost everybody likes potatoes and onions and stuff like that. And then the other stuff, like the pineapples and the mangoes, you know, that's a rare item, and that goes very quickly. But you hardly ever get meat, and you hardly ever get like the protein sources. That's why I'm glad I have some money donated so I can use that to buy the protein. Mm-hmm. And fill in with the toiletries.
That's in Franklin County. What about Feed My Sheep down in Mineral?
Well, I get a lot of the pet food from Sedona Grace to take down there. And then the Dublin Food Pantry gives me a large amount of food about 4 times a year, and it's all shelf stable. And then the Baptist Church in in North Clintonville. The North Baptist Church is very supportive of that. And then different people I've met over the years when I've given talks or speeches to other groups and just other people that have made connections with me or people that know people that I know, plus some of the people from the church donate food. So that all goes down to Athens. But I've been speaking at organizations for 17 years in this county, anywhere from the senior centers to 5-year-old kids, and scout groups are always looking for a speaker, and some of these clubs are always looking for speakers. And some of the people that I've connected with have had about, I guess, 4 or 5 articles in the Columbus Dispatch done on what I do. And some of those people have stayed with the program and still donate food. There's a couple in their 80s in Westerville that saw the second article, which would have been about 2008, and they donate food. And another couple in Hilliard that saw the first article in 2004, and they've been donating food on and off since then. So it's from a lot of different areas, a lot of different places, and which is kind of good, because if you lose one person due to moving out of town or dying or anything like that, you don't lose all your donations. But you're always trying to get new people involved, because that's how it grows. And Franklin County hasn't begun to touch the people I help, because a lot of the people I take food to, number one, I speak Spanish to them and they don't speak English. And number two, a lot of them don't have a vehicle at home to go to a pantry until after 5 o'clock in the evening or on Sunday. And there's no pantries open after 5, and there's no pantries open on Sunday. And, between the language barrier and all of that, the transportation's a big issue. So if I didn't take it to them, they wouldn't get it.
You comment a little bit about the mineral Feed My Sheep organization, how it started and how it blends into the Athens County whole food supply process.
Well, anybody that lives in the county, Athens County, can get food there. And about 2 years ago, they changed the rules that you can go to more than one food pantry a month, which is very helpful, because a lot of those people really need to go to 2 and 3 food pantries a month. And the minister started the pantry a week before I met him in 2004, and he's in Western Athens County. It's a stone's throw to Benton County if you go out the back of the church. So he's as far west as you can go, and probably in the central part of the county, but as far west as you can go. And sometimes people in Athens County drive 30 miles to the pantry to get a food box, which I find kind of amazing, because that doesn't happen in Columbus as a rule.
So how does the Mineral Food Bank and Feed My Sheep Food Bank relate to the Athens Food Bank, which received quite an infusion of money a couple of years ago?
Well, that's a pantry, because there's only one food bank in Southeast Ohio, and that's in Logan. But a lot of people use it as a misnomer and call a pantry a food bank when it's a pantry. The food pantries get food from the food bank, and the food pantries distribute the food directly to the people, and the food banks distribute it to organizations. But none of that money that Joe Burrows, the quarterback for Cincinnati Bengals, helped get over $500,000 raised. And out of the 12 pantries and 1 soup kitchen in Athens County, only one of them got the money, and they're not sharing it with anybody. So it didn't affect the inflow to the Feed My Sheep food pantry. They didn't get any of that money, and basically one pantry got it that's in the town of Athens, but that's kind of hard on a lot of people that live 11 to 15, 20 miles outside of Athens. Your food's not free if you got to spend a couple of gallons of gas to go and get it. But that didn't get distributed, so that's one of the issues. Sometimes that's the way life is.
So generally, the people who are using the Feed My Sheep pantry, do you comment anything about them?
Well, you have families, you have single individuals, you know, a widow or widower, and you have a lot of elderly, and you have a lot of families, and some of them come from Athens, clear out to Mineral, which is 11 miles. Some of them come from Nelsonville, which is 12 miles, because once they go to those pantries in their town, they can't go again for a month. So they come out to the Feed My Sheep food pantry because with our help, they are able to give out a food box every Monday. So you can go to that pantry once a month, go to another pantry once a month, and pretty soon you're starting to cobble together some food. But people do drive from all over the county, people from Amesville, which is the other side of the county, people from Gloucester, which is 30 something miles away, because there's no direct route east and west in that county. It's north and south only. So sometimes people have to drive, like I said, 30 miles to get a food box.
Let's see, what donations do you most need for your ministry?
Well, for Feed My Sheep food pantry, dried pinto beans is a very good item, and any shelf-stable items like meat, chunky soup, stew, chili, that sort of thing, and rice, and you know, those are good items because, you know, they're substantial and they have a little bit of protein in them, and they're shelf-stable. And then I take down the pet food, mostly dog and cat, because a lot of these people either won't take their medicine or they won't eat the food. They'll give the food to the animal to keep it alive, because that's the only thing they've got keeping them company. So, and then I take down children's books and we put those in the food boxes. And so that's part of the Feed and Read Ohio. So the kids, when the parents get or the grandparents, because sometimes the grandparents are taking care of the grandchildren, that's very frequent. And there's nothing in a grandparent's house for a young kid to enjoy. So the books make a big difference, because they give them something in the grandparents' food box for the kid to look forward to. There was one boy that was 13 that said he told his grandmother, he lived with his grandmother. He said, "I can't wait for you to go to the food pantry." And she said, "Well, why?" And he goes, "Well, you know, because you bring back books." And the first thing he does is dive into the box and get the books and go lays on the couch and reads them cover to cover, because that's his entertainment. So that's a good thing.
So given the COVID situation, how can people get stuff to you?
Well, I have a black tarp and a blue tarp in front of my garage in North Clintonville on Woodsfield, 617 Woodsfield Drive. It's 2 streets north of the deaf school off of Indianola. And people put stuff in front of the garage and cover it with the tarp. And then when I come home, I look under the tarp, and I have clothing, I have children's books, and I have food there. And so then I take it out. Once I see what I've got, I know what homes to take it to and where to take it. So I take it out, and then hopefully the next day the tarp will have some more good things with all the angels that bring the food and the other items.
Well, is there anything that you normally don't get that you would like to be getting?
Besides 50s and 100s, yeah, I'm, well, you know, and deodorant, I don't get a deodorant a lot of times. And shampoo, deodorant, shampoo, hair conditioner, those are items that I rarely get. And if people go to their dentist, a lot of times they tell them what they, you know, are doing. The dentist will give them free toothpaste and toothbrushes. And so that works out pretty well. And then laundry soap too. But shampoo, deodorant, laundry soap, those are all good items that I don't get a lot of.
Okay. There's nothing more that you want to add. I guess we can.
Well, feminine hygiene products, since I started going to the pantry, to the trailer park in Whitehall, when my volunteer moved out of the county that was helping me in Whitehall, I started meeting a lot more of the families and finding out there's a lot of 12, 13, 14-year-old girls that are needing the feminine hygiene products. And and a lot of them are very petite, Latinx population, and a lot of them wear a size 4 or size 2 or even a size 0 clothing. But any of the children's clothing, any size from newborn on up to about 16, up to adult, because they're not starting with a closet full of clothing like we are. You know, they're starting with no closet, with no clothing. And so whatever we give them pretty much is absorbed into their daily life pretty much immediately. But gently used clothing, no zippers broken, no buttons off, no stains that won't come out, and that sort of thing. But children's clothing is really good and really gets a lot of use down there. And so between, you know, the shelf-stable food, the pinto beans, you know, the deodorant, the shampoo, chunky soup, and the peanut butter is always good. That's high protein. So anyway, yeah, and that sort of stuff, and almost anything anybody needs, they need, you know, because like I said, if you're food insecure, then you probably don't have money for anything else. And the friend of mine that lived in the trailer park that since moved out, my volunteer, said that if you're living in a trailer park, that's like one step above being homeless. So, you know, these people are in dire need of everything. And I doubt if any of them are getting a stimulus check, and I doubt if any of them are getting a boost in their salaries, and they're probably mostly making minimum wage. And even if they're working 50 hours a week, they're in trouble. And when the COVID virus hit, a lot of these people were working in restaurants and hotels, and those were the two things that got shut down the first. So one thing I noticed in the trailer park is when I used to go in there like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there were hardly any cars there. And then all of a sudden it was wall-to-wall cars along next to the trailers. And I thought, well, what's happened? But that's when the COVID hit and they all got laid off at the same time. Some of the husbands and wives, each of them are working 2 jobs. And then all of a sudden they had no jobs. So, and they don't, and when you make that low of an income, you don't catch up on your bills. Once you get bills and you get behind, you just stay behind.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jack.
Gift cards are very beneficial also. There was 3 mothers that I gave gift cards to at Christmas time, and all 3 of them started crying. So that was very humbling, but you know you're reaching their soul and you know you're making a difference when those things occur. And everybody's very appreciative. They're all extremely thankful and extremely appreciative of all the help we give them.
Gift cards to which companies?
The companies, Aldi's, Walmart, and Kroger's, but Aldi's and Walmart unless you can't get to them, and then Kroger's.
Okay.
Because there's one trailer park is like 2 blocks from an Aldi's and 2 blocks from a Walmart in the other direction. So, and these trailer parks are huge. They have about 100 members in each one. And to give you a little background of the population, I would say out of the 100 families that we help every week in Franklin County, 95 of them are families of color. 50 of them are Latinx, and they're from Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, and Mexico. And so anyway, and then we go to Parkwood and Hudson, which is one of the poorest parts where I told you that Linden, North Linden, South Linden, and Mifflin come together. And a lot of the driveways are dirt in, you know, in that neighborhood. And a lot of the people walk to get their food. So there's not even a grocery store within walking distance. So, you know, what we take over there, I get rid of 1,000 pounds of produce every Thursday in about 3 hours. And this week I had an exceptionally large week and things worked out very well.
Show your face.
And I was able to rescue 3,000 pounds worth of food.
Okay. Okay, Jack. Thank you very much. That's very detailed and very interesting and helpful, I think, for the congregation.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're not a customer.
Thank you.